Sol, thank you so much for making time for us and this.
Well, thanks for having me. Do you like to go by Max?
Mac or Max, yes.
Yes, Max. Max is the name of the lead character in my last novel. So I
Yes.
spent a lot of time with that name.
I had noticed that, and we haven't gotten to we've gotten to absorb tiny fraction of your amazing body of work. There's so much that is there. And there are so many things that we want to talk about. I have tried to kind of reduce them to some of the most important subjects, but one of the things that I like to impress on people is that to whatever extent you can, please go explore this work because you will find so many new things. The whole, I wonder if you would say briefly, how do you introduce how do you introduce your body of work? Because it's so complex and there are some beautiful elements, like the fictional elements are really beautiful along with all of the other stuff that you do. I wonder how you use words about that preferably.
I guess it depends on the context. I like to think of myself as somebody who is a champion for the liberation and the freeing and the flowering of the human spirit. And I look at that as a process that can be promoted through art, through science, through the fusion of the two, through visual art, written art, and community building strategies, information sharing, so that there's so many things we can do. And I've always embraced this concept that I learned about when I was studying literature, English, just way back in high school, the concept of the Renaissance man or the Renaissance person, somebody who really got good at a lot of things, because I really disliked all of this compartmentalization and this vertical integration that's going on in society and in our business world and our science world. And I feel that if we can't be more balanced, we will automatically have an imbalanced world. So we have to actually work on balancing ourselves first. So that's one of the reasons I'm very into doing a lot of things and trying to do them well. I don't know how well I do everything, but I like to think that if I put myself out there, that I'm okay at it, I suppose. So
There's a joyful expression element of just trying to connect with many sorts of activities and creative modalities, and there's a lot of physical repair benefits just in doing that.
Oh, you're so right. I mean, think about the whole concept of neuroplasticity, especially as we age. Trying new things and opening up neural pathways, new configurations in our thought processing is so important, and that is one of the most youthing activities one can engage in. So just from a selfish standpoint, I encourage everyone out there to try new things, even if you're bad at it. Like I had an amazing experience. Was it Friday? I went to this party in Jacksonville and ended up realizing that I was at a pole dancing instructor's home. And I had always kind of been interested in this. I do a lot of different things. I do primal movement and Pilates and biking and swimming and body surfing. But I had always been kind of curious about pole dancing, not the erotic kind, but the exercise version of it, because I had heard that it was a workout unlike any other. So I made an appointment and went back up and had a pole dancing class on Friday. And I'm in pretty darn good shape. And I was sore for days. I'm still sore. So it was really amazing. But talk about opening up new pathways, just the way that you reach through and around and grip the pole in all of these strange ways. It really just twists your mind into new possibilities.
It's a totally different way of using one's brain. I really like stuff like that. Like there are all of these different ways of thinking about it, and sometimes a particular activity can turn out to be immensely valuable, even if it's something that somebody like never considered. Well, because it's something that somebody never considered doing. That
Yeah.
brain and these interesting, oh gosh, we're in trouble. How much time are you comfortable recording today? I need to watch the clock because there are too many subjects that we could travel to. I want to respect your time.
Yeah, I was thinking that we shouldn't go more than an hour and a half, if that's all right.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Well, it's fun. I mean, I like to connect. I like your art, you know. Is that your stuff behind you?
Thank you.
I see. Is that an owl?
That is an owl, and that is Mama Jaguar, and then we have
Cool.
some microbes, and we have
Yeah.
cosmic maelstrom.
Yes. Yes, I like that.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Very nice.
Gratitude, appreciation.
Yeah, well, you know, I got into owls. I mean, I've always kind of been into owls, you know, because really the higher octave of the owl is wisdom and is seeing the larger picture and taking the higher view. And it's been, of course, turned on its head through the machinations of the deep state and the cabal into this Malachian character, you know, where the owl is in Bohemian Grove and it's suddenly this bad or evil bird, but that really isn't its true meaning as far as I'm concerned. And
The
there's a
newer
wonderful
version and
astrologer out there named Laura. What is her last name? Is it Laura Ward? I can't remember now. I'm
not sure.
blanking for some strange reason. And it's oraclereport.com. And she has something called the Parliament of Wise Owls. That's what she calls the readership of this kind of black. It's a black moon astrology, and so it's very, very interesting what she's doing. It's fascinating. It's totally Gnostic based stuff that she's doing, and the wise owls are the people entertaining this vision that she's sharing, which is a vision that we're going through this planetary awakening that is really part of it's the human awakening, but it's also part of the planetary awakening.
I want to look that up. That sounds right. That sounds right in alignment with a lot of the things that we're working on and talking about. I sort of feel like I have these notes written down and I'm like, am I going to follow a plan? I'm not going to follow a plan. We're just going to sort of see how many of these come up in the conversation, because otherwise I'll end up stopping you from talking to try and redirect us. And I don't think I can stomach that. I think I just want to have the conversation. People have already been asking if we can share this publicly. What we do is we record for the private survivors groups, and then survivors groups that are working on public media say, oh, we need to add this to the conversation in public. We need people to understand this on our public platforms. And there are a lot of those intersections in here. I appreciate you bringing up that the way that symbols and ancestral wisdom and spiritual significance are twisted and perverted in these ways where they are co-opted to try to make them into something that they're not. And so people who value those ideas and those symbols and those energies, they can lose contact with what is real about that for them, because they've got some other influence telling them that it's only this, and maybe it's this that celebrates violence, and it's this that celebrates destruction and dishonors life energy. And we have really struggled with that, particularly on the subject of owls, actually, for some of the reasons that you mentioned. And so a big part of our conversations is, how do we reclaim what is ours, our languaging, our ancestral wisdoms, our ability to connect with life energy, and not have someone or something else rewriting that for us in ways that are so harmful. So I'm gonna catch some of these while I can. I want to make sure that we spend a very big chunk of time talking about regenetics specifically, and I'm going to touch on some of these other points first, but I want to make sure that we get there. And an hour and a half, I think, gives me enough time to do that, which is amazing. So we have a history with you that you don't know about yet. We've been following your work to whatever extent we can for the last few years. I think it was like a couple of years ago, or 2.5 years ago, or 1.5 years ago. I'm not sure. So our groups are severely disabled, usually very severely neurologically affected, usually totally cut off from any kind of access. So like, we can't reach books, we can't read web pages. A lot of the time we have to really help one another with really small tasks in order to survive. And before we had the network, we weren't surviving, people weren't surviving. And now we've sort of built a privilege of talking to one another, but you don't hear about us in public media unless it's from us. And people don't realize how severely physically affected survivors at these invisible intersections are. When we came across your work, I think you were talking to Greg Carlwood, and I think that it was that you mentioned, and this goes really deep for us, you mentioned it was something like the yoke of sexual slavery.
This is slavery yoke.
Yeah, it was something about the second chakra.
Yep.
And said something about the root chakra being cut off from the upper chakras. And I personally had a huge shock when you said that, because part of how do I say this? When I was trafficked, part of my body's warning signs for trying to get me out of danger was a dream that was about the second chakra in some really powerful ways. That when I heard you say that in the interview, it's like nonverbal knowing, nonverbal recognition, and it hit every cell of my body. And it connected a lot of different intersections that are essentially about that we have been trying to communicate. And I've never found that in your work again. We shared that episode, wherever that was. We've been talking about it and referencing it since, but we never found more about that specifically. And I wondered if you would help us unpack it a ways, because it's already so meaningful, and it's just this small little piece.
Oh, sure. The first thing I should point out is that there's whatever this phenomenon is, this second chakra weakness or problem, goes by various names. And so I call it the fragmentary body. So if you see that in my work, and that's in both of my books, I discuss the fragmentary body at some length.
Okay.
It's the same thing as the slavery yoke. That's what Eileen McCusick called in her book, Biofield Tuning. She had independently found it in her work. So when she found my work and she realized we were talking about the same thing, she was like, oh my goodness, that's really something. So those are a couple of terms: fragmentary bodies, my terminology, or one that I was sort of given by some early teachers. And then Eileen talks about the slavery yoke, but we're both in agreement that it's the same thing. So you can read in Conscious Healing and in Potentiate Your DNA, you can find certainly more information about the fragmentary body, because it's a really big piece of the work. And the reason it's a big piece is that the regenetics and starting with potentiation is designed to seal the fragmentary body, to essentially begin healing the wound of the fragmentary body in the psyche and in the energetics. Okay. And then that process goes, I have said on a number of occasions that it starts with sealing and it moves towards healing. But the first thing you have to do is energetically plug it up. It has to be sealed. And when that's done, then you are no longer losing energy like a plane with a contrail or something, right? Coming out through this crack in your nuclear reactor. I'm mixing metaphors here, but just think about this huge energy drain, right? Where all of this is leaving you. But not only do things leave you through the fragmentary body, they also come into you through the fragmentary body. That's how etheric parasites get into you. That's how archons, mind parasites, that's how they come in and inhabit people. And it's how actual parasites set up residence in your body, because there is a resonance, a frequency in the fragmentary body that allows them to claim space in your body.